Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that is right, my friends. You've tuned in to America's home for conservative, not bitter talk. I'm your host, the one and only Todd Huff, behind the microphone here today. It is my pleasure to be here. If you want to be part of the conversation, you know the routine. If you're new and if you don't, that's all right. Email Todd at toddhuffshow.com, or you can text 317-210-2830. Yesterday, we spent some time in the second hour talking about Bill Maher's comments about his dinner with President Trump. We played a big chunk of those. Those are on yesterday's stack. Stop. Let me pause. Happy birthday to the IRS. Happy birthday to Tax Day. We Americans love you. No, we don't. Today's Todd Talk is about that. In fact, I concluded the Todd Talk by saying, you get to the end of the birthday song, happy birthday to, I'm not going to sing, but at the end, many people will say, and many more. I don't say that for Tax Day. In fact, I hope that this is Tax Day's last birthday. We've had enough of the shenanigans and the oppression and the personal violation of the IRS and what's become of the current tax code here in the United States of America. So I hope it's the last birthday for 112th day. But today is the birthday of the tax day, IRS, I guess. Anyway, but yesterday we were talking about Bill Maher and what was going on there with his dinner with Trump. And I want to talk about first here today some of the reactions from the radical left. They can't stomach this. They can't stomach any nice thing being said about President Donald Trump. So I want to start there. I've got a lot in the stack of stuff, my friends. Before we do that, though, let me remind you, my friends, MyPillow, they had a big order with the box stores that fell through, and because of that, they're passing along wholesale prices to you. If you, of course, have the discount code TODD, which we'll get to here in a moment. This order was placed for Giza Dream Sheets. We have those here in the Huff household. You can also get the Percale bed sheets. These are on drastic discounts, wholesale pricing. I'm talking, I don't have my calculator here, but it's 50%, I think, or more off of these sheets. This is for a limited time until this allotment, what they ordered, runs out, but you're getting wholesale prices if you go to mypillow.com. And if you use promo code TODD, you're going to get those discounts. Free shipping options are also available, my friends. This will not last long. MyPillow.com, promo code TODD. Again, MyPillow.com, promo code TODD. Or if you prefer, 800-615-2015. If you want to call, again, 800-615-2015. Be sure to use promo code TODD no matter how you place that order to get your discount. All right. So yesterday I shared a decent amount of Bill Maher's speech, I guess, his opening monologue during his program where he talked about meeting President Trump for dinner at the White House. And my general takeaway from this was, I'm surprised that a guy as smart. Bill Maher is a smart guy. Bill Maher doesn't agree with a lot of what I say here, so he would be wrong about that. But you know what? He's an intelligent guy. And I will give him that. He's a thoughtful guy. He's snarky and he's condescending and all that from time to time. Maybe a lot. But listen, he's been successful. He's got a show that's been successful. And I think Bill Maher, we need more we need more conservatives in this country. We need more people who love America as founded in this country. We need more Christ-filled believers in this country. But listen, if you're not going to come that far I would say if you're going to remain left of center, I would say, look, at least be like Bill Maher. At least be reasonable. Yeah, you got to deal with the occasional snarkiness. You got to deal with the occasional condescension. He hates a lot of things about Christianity and so forth. But in general, the guy can function with people who are different than him. He needs to sometimes tear them down, maybe a little bit more than just that might be necessary for the particular argument at the moment. But hey, to each his own. I don't care what Bill Maher thinks about me. I'm telling you what I think about him, for whatever this is worth. Now, for the other folks on the radical left, they cannot deal with what Bill Maher said. Because what did he say? If you missed yesterday's program, which shame on you. I'm just kidding. Folks, if you miss a program, by the way, you can go to our website, toddhuffshow.com. You can go to our Rumble channel and see that, yes, in fact, I do have a Face 4 radio. You can watch it there. You could also go to, where else can you go? Oh, to wherever you listen to podcasts, and just search The Todd Huff Show and listen there. So, but if you missed it, I'll let it slide this one time. The general consensus was, Trump's not as bad, Bill Maher says, as he appears to be on television. In fact, Bill Maher said his biggest takeaway, I'm paraphrasing here, from the dinner with Trump was when he left the dinner, he later, maybe the next day, saw Trump on television sparring with reporters or whatever he was doing at the podium, as Trump is known to do, calling someone stupid or just criticizing some idea from the radical left or whatever. And Bill Maher said, who is that guy? That's not the guy I just sat down and had dinner with last night. Now, I also said that Bill Maher also understands this. Bill Maher understands that Donald Trump, the individual, and Donald Trump, the person who is filling the role of president when the limelight is on, when he's in the spotlight, he's, I don't want to say different, but he is also performing in a sense. Now, people hear that term and they think, oh, he's acting. It's not that. It's that he has to think about ways to amplify his personality. My kids will say, Dad, you sound different on the radio. And to them, I probably do, but I'm talking oftentimes one-on-one or, with the five of us together sort of thing. If I'm coaching soccer or basketball, I'm usually yelling out onto the court, so they would say, that sounds different as well. But that's the point, right? So my voice is going to sound different on this show than it would sound at a basketball game when I'm yelling on the court or when I'm in a one-on-one conversation or a small group setting. That's the whole point. Part of being a grown-up is not changing, not making yourself something you're not at the other times. It's just, okay, I've got to lean more into this. I have to enunciate a little bit differently on this program than I would if I were in a one-on-one conversation with somebody and we were in a quiet environment or something. I've got to project my voice a little bit differently. You can't always see it here, but I look at my audio levels from time to time to make sure that I'm hitting where it needs to be so that it is just at the perfect level for your ears to listen to this fantastic program. So part of that comes down to projection. I'm the same person who believes the same things. I'm just in a position of having to speak into the microphone right now. It's a little bit different. Just like if I'm the driver of the car or the passenger in the car. Tried to get my wife to drive the other. I'm a driver. I'm old school. As the husband, I drive. I know some of you, the wife drives. I tried to get my wife to drive the other night. She said no. And I said, what do you mean no? Why can't you drive? It's just expected of me to drive. It's different when you're driving the car than when you're sitting as a passenger. In fact, as a passenger, I can tell you from personal experience, my wife is just, there's a comedian who says he's got a little helper in the car, right? Who's over there telling him all the things that needs to be done while he's driving the vehicle. There's a red light. There's a car coming over. You missed the part. You missed your turn, whatever. It's just a different, you're in a different environment. You have a different set of responsibilities. Trump at the podium has a different objective than Trump in a one-on-one situation. For example, Bill Maher said Trump asked him questions and listened to his feedback. If Trump's speaking at an event, at a rally, he can't very well stop and say, tell me your name. Remember when didn't Kamala do that? Everybody yell your name at an event. I think she did that. On 3, I want everybody to yell their name. 1, 2, 3, right? That's what it sounded like in the crowd. Because you can't do it, right? There's a time and a place. There's a time and a place. I'm reading the New Testament. Jesus is going around and teaching in the area, where he lived in a general vicinity. He's often talking with his fellow Jewish believers, and sometimes he's traveling outside of that area to where the people are not Jewish. And the message is the same, but the message is also communicated slightly differently. Jesus didn't change. In fact, the Bible says God changes not, but he also meets us where we are, and he's dealing with the circumstances that we're dealing with. Right? Jesus often spoke along the shores, right? The Sermon on the Mount, he often spoke kind of on elevated ground around the Sea of Galilee and so forth. The sound projects pretty well there. He would speak to the crowds, then he would pull the 12 aside and he would teach them sometimes what he meant. Sometimes he wouldn't go through what he was talking about in these parables, but sometimes he would. He would answer their questions. He would explain it. He didn't do that. Why didn't he do that there? Because again, the circumstances were different, right? And then sometimes he would even pull the inner 3, Peter, James, and John. They would get even a little bit of a more of a up close and personal explanation or experience. I just read the Transfiguration account where Jesus takes Peter, James, and John up the mountain. The point here is that part of being an adult means that you change not change who you are. Sometimes you just have to lean more into a particular area. For those of you who run a business, this might make perfect sense. You might, at your business, you're making the decisions all the time. You have to have it together all the time. You might, when you get home, or if you're maybe your kids play sports and you're like, I can't coach. It's not that I can't coach. It's that I can't be the guy with the answers all the time. I have to be at some point. Some of you might not like to think about it as the follower, but sometimes I just can't be the one pushing ahead. I can't always be that, right? There's all these factors that make perfect sense into why Trump and why someone like Bill Maher is different in a private one-on-one setting than he is when he is speaking on stage at his comedy routine, or when he's home with his family, or having a private dinner with friends, or whatever. Of course, Bill Maher understands this. Now, obviously, there's a point to where, hey, this person that I'm listening to on the public stage at the podium, he is engaged in behavior that I've never seen before. This is out of character. This isn't who I know. Okay, and maybe that's what Bill Maher was getting to, saying in person, Trump was very, he didn't have a big ego. He let me challenge him. He let me Bill Maher at one point was wagging his finger, at least in his presentation the other night, was saying, you did that, Mr. President. You're the one that did away with the Iran nuke deal. I think your decision was dangerous for America, is basically what he was saying. And he said Trump sat there and listened and took it and didn't respond in kind. I mean, I don't understand what's so hard to understand about this. And I think, I really think Bill Maher in this, I think he's being honest in his assessment. I think what he shared yesterday, or we talked about on this program yesterday, I think that's genuinely what he thought about those events at the White House at dinner. I'm a little perplexed as to why he thought them, but that's what he thought. And listen, I'm glad that he shared it. I think it's wonderful that he shared it. But the left doesn't like it. Article here at Breitbart.com. Here we go. Celebrities, hold on here, let me get the headline. Celebrities lambast Bill Maher for praising Trump following his White House meeting. So the monologue that Bill Maher shared with his audience, and that we all talked about here, was I don't know if he praised Trump. He was appreciative of Trump. He was appreciative of how Trump treated him. He thought Trump was gracious and kind and understanding. He thought Trump was listening. He went as far to say the left, he said, I felt more comfortable saying the things I said to Trump than I would have felt saying those to Clinton or to Barack Obama, with people whom Bill Maher finds agreement. Why is that? Because, again, I think of the attitude. It's remarkable. I know Trump has an ego. We all know this. Trump has an ego. There is a healthy form of an ego. Of course, ego can quickly become self-righteousness and arrogance and all that. That's not good. And I don't know. I'm not the person. I'm not in his heart. I don't know where the line is for him in particular. I don't know how many times he's danced across it. I know this. We've all at some point danced across that line. It seems to be human nature to sometimes think too highly of ourselves. Some folks struggle with the opposite as well. But many times when we do something well, we want to believe how great we are. And the truth is that Trump is, I think it's true. I think that Bill Maher even said it. Trump has more of a healthy, down-to-earth, I'm going to even say humility. I say that with a little bit of hesitation, because I don't know if it's really pure humility, but at least more of a down-to-earth, meek side than the Bill Clinton or Barack Obama had. Now, many will say, oh, that's unbelievable. He's out there saying these things from the podium, from the microphone on a regular basis. That's not who Trump is. Trump is a fighter. And I think if you just understand that, you're halfway to understanding what's going on. Trump has watched, himself deal with this for 10 years now, but Trump wasn't born yesterday, right? Trump, before he entered the White House, was constantly dealing with high-stakes situations. I remember back in 2015, I attended a heritage event in South Carolina, and they had 16 of the 17 presidential candidates there. The only one who didn't show up was President Trump. As I was trying to figure out why that wasn't the case, I had a friend who said he didn't want to be seen in front of the conservative audience. He was afraid that we would, break him down with questions or whatever. He just didn't think that was his crowd. Turns out that wasn't the case. He had to leave town, or he was dealing with some big negotiation for real estate or some such thing. Trump is used to high-stake, high-pressure activities, and he's not afraid. He's not intimidated of the big stage. And so when you understand that he's not going to let you frame him, or he's not going to let you frame the circumstances or speak on his behalf about what he thinks, what he believes. In fact, if he thinks you're doing it intentionally, misleading people, maligning him intentionally, he's going to fight back. And so that's where that side of spunkiness comes from. It's from Trump saying, I refuse to fall into that particular category. I refuse to fall into this traditional MO, the way that things have been done by Republicans and by politicians. And it resonates with the average American, because the average American has listened to politicians speak for decades, their entire lives, and they think these guys say a lot of words and they accomplish nothing. They say a lot of words while saying nothing. The things that they do say never get done to begin with, and it's disheartening. Suddenly a guy comes along who throws all of the standard operating procedures and playbooks out the window, and he says, this is how I'm going to operate. And I'm going to be aggressive, and I am not going to let you define me. I am going to tell you what I think. You can ask me the questions that you want to ask me. If I think you're being a little bit, you're trying to put me in a negative light, I'm going to call you out. I'm going to call your questions stupid. I'm going to call you fake news. I don't know what's hard to understand about this, but the left can't take that Bill Maher said anything positive about this guy. So here's what the article at Breitbart says. This, by the way, is in the stack of stuff on the website if you want to read it. I don't know if I'm going to read a little bit of this. I rarely read a whole article because, sometimes they're long. This one's not too long, so we'll see where we end up here. So, actually, before I do this, my friends, let me tell you, if you're concerned about your heart health, if you're worried about high cholesterol, if you have a family history of heart problems, cholesterol problems, hear me say this, consider taking Solti. I take Solti. It's an all-natural supplement. It is a natural way that has been clinically proven, scientifically proven. Science has spoken on this. And it's been proven to lower cholesterol. It's done this for people. It may be able to do this for you as well. Again, it's all natural, clinically proven. It's a dietary supplement, and it's been tested as safe. No prescriptions, no doctor's visits, just 2 Solti soft gels a day. That's all it takes to take care of your health. So go to Solti.com, S-O-L-T-E-A, Solti.com. Use promo code Todd during the checkout process. You're going to get 50% off that first 3-month supply and get free shipping. This is affordable. It is natural. It is safe. And it is something that, again, has been proven to lower cholesterol. The only thing, my friends, you have to lose are those high cholesterol points. Solti.com, S-O-L-T-E-A, promo code Todd. Get you those discounts and the free shipping. All right. Not a lot of time, but I'm going to get into this. Celebrities did not respond kindly to comedian Bill Maher visiting the White House for dinner with President Trump and were even more incensed over his retelling of the dinner. As Breitbart News reported, Maher finally divulged the details about his dinner with Trump weeks after teasing it, describing the president as gracious and completely different from the man he knew on television. This is what Bill Maher said. He's talking of Trump. He's much more self-aware than he lets on in public. Look, I get it. It doesn't matter who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking it as a positive that this person exists because everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear he says, absent at least on this night with this guy. The left can't handle this. This guy's Hitler after all. You can't be saying these things. Bill Maher, did you not get the memo? Did you not see the Teslas that are on fire being run off the road? Did you not see the polls that show that these leftists want to see the president and Elon Musk murdered? It is crazy. These people have lost their ever-loving minds. Evil is in their hearts. I've got to take a break, my friends. Sit tight. More on this on the other side of the break. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. So, the audio sounded a little bit different there in my headphones. So, the left can't take it. The left cannot take something nice being said about President Donald J. Trump. They can't take something nice being said about a conservative, about someone in the MAGA movement. They've invested too much. They've hated for too long. See, if they start seeing, people on the left start seeing the MAGA Republicans, they start seeing conservatives, if they see Trump as a human being who isn't to be hated, isn't Adolf Hitler, then that's been the core message of the left for, the better part of a decade now. And so they have to have some explanation. How do you go from calling the guy Adolf Hitler to saying, now Bill Maher didn't, I don't know. Bill Maher has been very critical of Trump. There's no secret about that. Been very critical. I don't know if Bill Maher's ever echoed those sentiments. I think I have heard him say Trump was a danger to our democracy, something along those lines, but I don't know if I've ever heard him say, actually, I don't think I've ever heard him say anything about Trump and Nazism, authoritarianism, and that sort of thing. But if he did, this doesn't compute, right? Adolf Hitler, Again, I go back when I chuckled there because I've been doing this show for 10 years. And when I think back to the things, you think about where you're going to take the show. What's the show going to look like? What's going to happen in 5 years, right? What am I going to be talking about in another 5 years or 10 years? I have to tell you, I never thought I would have to honestly explain that a president was not Adolf Hitler. It's beyond ridiculous to me. And I think we're being gaslit. I mean, I don't think anyone really believes this. I think that there are people in the rank and file who have heard these things long enough, who aren't independent thinkers, who probably don't know anything about Adolf Hitler, or very little. And everything that they know about him is just in reference to how that's similar to Trump or whatever. I don't think these are history buffs. I think that there might be history buffs who are trying to convince people, malign Trump and convince people that he's to be hated, that he's dangerous because they want to politically stop him. But I don't think there's anybody out there who really believes. Do we not know what Hitler did? Hitler was invading Europe. Hitler was taking over, was using the Blitzkrieg and storming through Europe. He was using his secret police to arrest people and put them in concentration camps. And someone says, well, that's what Trump's deporting people, Todd. It's the same. How is it the same thing? The law has always been in this country. If you cross into this nation illegally, you can and should be deported. That's the law. You can apply for exemptions. You can say, I'm here to apply for asylum. My life is at risk in my home country. Here's why, that sort of thing. But you're supposed to do that through a legal process. You're just not supposed to cross the border and say, I'll deal with that later on. This is just not the way that it works. And Trump enforcing immigration law is nothing. Again, just the false analogies and it really boils down to the strong desire they have to make any connection between Trump and Nazis or whatever. But that's what they've done for 10 years. So how can they allow themselves to say something nice about Trump? Because Trump, after all, is supposed to be Hitler. So celebrities criticized Maher for what they characterized as giving Trump the PR stunt he wanted. So I'm going to read some tweets. These tweets are from unhinged, deranged, radical leftists who I welcome back. Listen, I don't want these folks to be permanent enemies to truth and logic and reason. I hope that they turn from the lies and the anger and the rage that's in their hearts and in their minds. But this is plumb stupid. So leading the charge here is none other than Keith Olbermann. Good old Keith Olbermann. He tweeted this out over the weekend. By the way, don't overanalyze Maher prostituting himself to Trump. Not using periods here. Maher works for the same fascist, there we go, at Warner who took over and corrupted CNN. Okay. I mean, CNN's been corrupted for a long time, Keith. I don't know what you're referencing. Now, he says, I've known Bill since 1978. He was a shameless opportunist with no real principles then, and he remains so. This is so he can keep his HBO show. Is that really what? There's no way Keith believes that. There's absolutely no way that Keith Olbermann believes that, even in spite of his rage. You talk about a guy who's unstable, a guy who has real problems with rage and anger. This guy, if you say something nice, if you say, man, Trump had a nice tie on today, Keith Olbermann will want to fight you. If you say, man, Trump's suit was really nice, you know what? I saw him on an interview. He was very gracious to don't you know he's Hitler? Keith Olbermann can't stand it. Here is Andy Ostroy, if I'm saying that correctly. He's a producer. Don't know much about this leftist. He said this. Here's what Maher is not. So again, in response to Bill Maher's interview, or not interview, but his comments about Trump. So he's basically saying it's easy for Bill Maher to say because he's a white guy. Here's the tweet in question here. Here's what Maher is not. A person of color, a woman, gay, trans, an immigrant, Muslim, on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, disabled, the working class. So it's no wonder he can jet to the White House and find Trump so blinking, charming, and real. Sickening, he says. What else do we have? We've got, this is Patton Oswalt, who I believe he's an actor, right? It put a screenshot. This is on Blue Sky, the platform that's supposed to be the liberals' version of Twitter, of X. He says this: Darth Vader being gracious and not fake. Everything we've ever not liked about him is absent in this scene. So he, of course, is saying Trump is Darth Vader. He's the evil leader of the terrible empire. He's trying to stop the rebel cause. Trump is Darth Vader. He's gracious. He's not fake, but that's because you took out all the bad parts about Vader being Vader or Trump being Trump. Actor John Cusack tweets this: plenty of sociopaths can be gracious over dinner. I'm sure some SS members were very gentlemanly at cocktail parties, Bill. What a fool. He said that on Blue Sky as well. For those who think Trump is whatever, what is this? An SS member, of course, referring to Hitler's SS troops. What is it? What makes Trump these things? What makes Trump a sociopath, as John Cusack writes? What makes him a Nazi? Someone articulate this for me. And honestly, when you ask somebody this who believes these things, they typically respond, what do you mean? It's obvious. And they start screaming and they start foaming at the mouth. Listen, the adults in the room don't take you seriously anymore. I mean, if you want to make an argument like a big person, someone who's thoughtful, someone who's trying to persuade and not virtue signal or not demean someone else for disagreeing, then we welcome you to the party. I do. I'd love to hear you explain these things. But see, you've tried for the better part of 10 years now, and you've not convinced a huge chunk of the population, including yours truly here behind the microphone, and resorting to silly little tweets and silly little comments like this and memes and so forth. It only serves to illustrate just how out of touch, just how historically ignorant you are as to who Hitler was, what was going on. Just watch. You don't have to read a book. Watch a history documentary, History Channel documentary. Watch it and tell me how Trump is any of those things. The arrogance, the condescension, the self-righteousness, the know-it-allness of these folks, it's a lot to behold, but it's still comical to watch them behave like little petulant children here. But they can't stand for a single nice thing to be said about Trump. Quick time out, my friends. A little bit long this segment. You're listening to Conservative Not Bitter Talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. Final segment of this, the first hour of our program. By the way, if you are in sales, let me ask you something, my friends. Do you have a system? If you don't, you are leaving money on the table. You're leaving sales on the table. You're leaving people who could benefit from your product or service without a solution because you don't have a good enough system to stay on top of all of the communications and so forth. It's one of the many reasons why I'm a big believer in Matt Easton and Easton University. They've done some training here for us. I think you should consider, if you're in sales, hiring them to train you as an individual salesperson, or if you are responsible for a sales team, as a sales team, I think that this would be a wonderful investment. I think that you will see results, and I think that Matt's system, I put it up there with, I've seen a lot over 20 some years. I think it's as good as I've seen, practical, proven. It's designed to deliver results. Whether you are new to sales, a seasoned pro, this system will help you close more deals, make more money, and take control of your career. You know, a lot of these programs have their own niche. Matt's niche is in training in a system and then helping by coaching through some individual challenges with their weekly coaching calls. So you can close more deals, make more money, take control of your career. All you have to do is go to toddhuffshow.com/Easton. You can sign up to be a student of Easton University. As an added bonus, as partnering with them through this program, you will get a personal welcome call with Matt where he will walk through your specific challenges and so forth as you get started with this program. toddhuffshow.com/Easton, EASTON is how you spell that, toddhuffshow.com/Easton. Take that first step, my friends. You will not regret it. So, actually, I need to, sorry, the video wasn't showing my beautiful face there. I need to, answer the question that I've been saying that the left won't answer. They refuse to even acknowledge that there's an answer to this question. And that is, if someone asks someone on the left to name something good about Trump or Republicans, they won't even allow it to be considered because, again, they've invested so much. So I think it's fair to say to me, well, Todd, what's good? Can you say anything nice about liberals? I can, actually. I can. I'll start with the people who are moderate. I'll start with union Democrats. I'll start with teachers, people who oftentimes are single-issue voters. I think that you and I have a ton in common. Unless you've really bought into the leftist ideology, you and I and a lot of America have a lot in common. You love this country. You don't hate it. You believe in the founding principles. You agree on many of the issues that I'm talking about on here on a regular basis. It's just that you think that your personal career or whatever single issue that you find most important trumps, no pun intended, all of that. And so you'll vote Democrat, even though you agree largely with me, much closer to me than you agree with, say, the likes of Nancy Pelosi, AOC, Ilhan Omar, number one. Now, to the liberals who are a little bit further than those folks there, liberals who, they, I think, I don't have a lot of time here, but I think liberals, people like Bill Maher, I also think that the majority of liberals love this country. I think that oftentimes liberals, while their ideas are sometimes dangerous, I don't think in many cases, especially the rank and file, that this is an intentional way to sabotage this nation and to, basically, one of the problems I have with leftist policies or policies left of center are that they're unsustainable. They're unsustainable because it's not what the government's supposed to be doing. It's unconstitutional in the vast majority of cases, and it's too expensive. It requires to take from one group of people, give to the other. I don't think that a lot of liberals think this way. I think they just think it would be nice. Boy, it'd be nice if college was free. They don't think through, the mechanics of that. Or they think that the government's money is just a heap of cash that the government's done something to earn. No, that's someone's money that they took. But I think liberals oftentimes have good intentions. Now, that's not enough. You know the old saying, I won't say it here, but you know the old saying about I guess I will say it, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. We can often have good intentions but do some really bad things. And I would say, I don't think that the majority of liberals, I think a lot of them are simply thinking that those ideas are better because liberalism is something that comes from an emotion. And so the emotion to make sure that people have things, aren't going without, is not a bad thing. But the consequences of some of these actions create a bigger problem for us as individuals who seek liberty. Now, for those on the extreme end of the spectrum, the radical left, this is the hardest part for me to do, because the people who I say are on the extreme end of the radical left spectrum, these are people who hate America as founded. They don't like it. They want to remake it into something else. They reject truth. It's hard for me to find the ideas, or your worldview is morally bankrupt, but I will say this. You'll never hear me talk about you like they talk about Trump. You're a human being created in the image of Almighty God. And I'm always willing to listen and converse with you and welcome you into the fold. But agree with you, I'm just not going to be able to. I'm out of time, though, my friends. Thanks for listening, SDG.